Good morning, or good afternoon, as the case may be. Welcome to Coffee Talk with Brendan. I'm your host, Brendan Smith from Batdorf and Bronson Coffee Roasters. I'm so glad that you're joining us today. For those of you who tuned in yesterday, we are so grateful that you've come back. We should have a nice, smooth experience. Let me know if you can hear me, if everything looks and sounds good. Let me just take a quick look here. Make sure that we look like we're good. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, give us a comment or a like if you can hear and you can see and everything looks good. Don't forget, we've got our 10% coupon just for you guys for tuning in today. It's Watch and Learn 10. Boy, this backwards orientation is fun. Save 10% on batdorfcoffee.com. We will put a special link in the comments and in the description for you to follow. You can save 10% on your total purchase at batdorfcoffee.com using Watch and Learn 10. Today we're going to be talking about coffees from the Americas. So, hey, what's up, camera? Let's turn you. There we go. That's more like it. So, shift this so that they're all in focus. All right, so, and don't forget to share the stream. If you share the stream, we're going to be giving away a bag of one of these coffees to at least one person who shares. If we get a lot of shares, we'll give away more coffee. So share the stream to win. I think my shirt is tripping the camera out. It's looking all kinds of funky. I will not wear checkered again. Apologies if anyone else is seeing this hippie, dippy, fun stuff that's going on. But anyway, we're learning, we're live streaming, we're having fun. We appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being here. So please share the stream. Let's get a few people to join us before we get going. But I'll talk through the coffees that we're going to cover today. Today we're covering Central and South American coffees from Batdorf and Bronson. We have single origins, we have blends, we have a whole variety to offer. So first up here is this Guatamala El Volcan. This is one of my faves. Tasting notes are milk chocolate, caramel, and hazelnut. This is a coffee that we started carrying last year, and I was so pleased by it. I remember sitting right here in our training lab, let me put it back on me, and drinking this coffee, and after about 10 minutes reading the paper, drinking the coffee, I found myself taking another sip and going, dang, that's good coffee, to myself, which is a good sign. It's just a really solid cup of coffee, and as generic as that descriptor is, it really speaks to how universally loved this coffee is. It's becoming a customer favorite. It's one of our best sellers on batdorfcoffee.com. I know some of you love this coffee too. I love it. We have accounts that serve it exclusively. It's a great coffee. So next up, Colombia Las Brisas. This is one of our newest coffees. Tasting notes are citrus, cocoa, and honey. It's from Eduardo Giraldo in the Caturra variety from the Tolima region of Colombia. Amazing coffee. We love Las Brisas. It is, for me, citrus, cocoa, and honey. I love the brightness of it. It's got this pleasant brightness, but it's also got this cocoa-y and undertone with a little bit of that sort of honey sweetness, the kind of sweetness that's not so saccharine that it's too much. It's just kind of a warm, cocoa-y kind of sweetness with like a fresh citrus element to it. So it's a lighter, brighter coffee, but it's got those cocoa-y notes which add kind of that pleasant semi-sweet edge to it. And it means that it very much is coffee, but it's alive. It's kind of wakes you up. I love Las Brisas. I'm drinking it all the time. I know most of our staff, this is their daily driver right now. So if you're interested to know what we're drinking at home, a lot of us are drinking Las Brisas. So that's a great one. Next we have our Costa Rica Cerro del Fuego, or Cerro del Fuego. This is 100% certified organic, and it's a honey processed coffee with notes of melon, peach, and macadamia nut. Amazing coffee as well. If you don't know what honey processed is, we talked about processing yesterday, right? If you're just joining us, thanks for joining. Coupons on screen. Don't forget to share the stream, and we're going to be giving away some of this coffee exclusively to people who share and join our Batdorf Boosters VIP Coffee Club. We've given away some equipment over there. We've had some pretty big prizes, so join the coffee club today. It's a fun place to post and share and talk coffee and ask questions, so we'd love to have you. So the Cerro del Fuego is honey processed, and what that means is we talked about processing is the act of removing the coffee cherry, the fruit, it's called a coffee cherry, from the coffee bean, which is really more of a seed, right? Or a pit, if you will, if you're thinking fruit. And so to remove that, the typical way to do it is called washed processing, and that's where water mechanically separates the fruit from the coffee bean. We see a lot of coffees, especially African coffees. We talked about African coffees yesterday, like our Ethiopia Harar is a really good example. Some of them can be naturally processed. Ethiopian coffees tend to be naturally processed more often. That has a lot to do with the availability of water. It takes a lot of water to do processing, and in countries that have a lot of water, wash processing makes the most sense. Now that we are in this renaissance of coffee where we're really enjoying it for the nuance of the flavor, for the profile, the different regional varieties, the terroir, the kind of essence of what craft specialty coffee can be, people are using processing as a tool to pull different flavors out of the coffee. So you may find a naturally processed coffee in Central and South America where they have plenty of water and they didn't historically need to do it because they want to get that extra bit of tang from that coffee, that slightly fermenty, sweet, fruity note. They want to impart that. And then you may see some coffees from regions that typically didn't have the infrastructure to do a washed coffee that now have a little bit better access to it, and they're doing that as well just to get some variety. So a honey process, this one, the Cerro del Fuego, using my high school Spanish, is a honey process, which means it's sort of halfway between, right? We are not using honey in the process. It's called honey process because the coffee is partially washed, but it's not fully washed. So what happens is some of the mucilage from the fruit is left behind on the coffee bean, which when you look at it, instead of the really dry coffee from a fully washed coffee, it's got a little bit of a sheen on it, and they say that it looks like it's coated in honey, hence honey process. And so that's meant to sort of strike a balance where you get the clarity of a washed coffee, but you also get a little bit of the essence of the fruit that was there, still kind of lingering in the coffee. So it's subtle, but really, really tasty. So that is our Costa Rica today. Again, the tasting notes in this one are melon, peach, and macadamia nut. It's also a fair trade certified coffee, which we love. Next up is our Guatamala La Esperanza. And this is from Octavio Herrera. Tasting notes are brown sugar, apple, and raisin. This is a Caturra variety. And so this is our other Guatemala that we carry. Tasting notes on this one, brown sugar, apple, and raisin. So you're going to get more of a a sweetness, kind of a molasses kind of sugary thing, but a little less heavy. And then you get that apple and kind of raisin thing. So somewhere between like a grapiness and sort of a sweetness that you would get from a fresh apple. Very, very pleasant coffee, really tasty, great coffee. So take a look again. If you want to order any of these on our website, you can use your 10% off coupon, which is there. It is so hard to point at things. 10% off, Watch and Learn 10 at batdorfcoffee.com. Follow the link that we put in the comments so that we know you came there through this stream. And we would love to have that. So we've got some hot water cooking up, and we're going to do a coffee cupping. If you joined us yesterday, we talked through coffee cupping. I'm going to be brief today and kind of explain the basics of it, and then we'll get right down to it. And let's see if we have any questions, or if you guys, before we get going here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. I see people sharing the video. I appreciate that very much. So we're live on all our pages right now. So if you're watching us, if you're watching us on the Batdorf page or the Batdorf in Bronson, Florida page or our Dancing Goats page, we are live on all platforms because that's how we roll. This is our training lab, by the way. This is actually painted on the wall in our training lab. And below me is our couch. We just got a great couch and a couple of seating chairs and a coffee table, which we're using our cupping table right now. But all set to welcome you to come hang out at the training center, enjoy a cup of coffee, learn a little bit about our coffee. So when it's time to break out of quarantine, we'd love to have you join us. Join us here. This is a full training center. Maybe I'll take you on a tour the next time. But I've got espresso machines and grinders and commercial brewing equipment and all kinds of fun stuff in here. So we can make everything that you could want to drink in a coffee shop. And you can also learn about it. And we do full service training, especially for our wholesale clients, who we love, and we're hoping that they'll be able to get back to business really, really soon. Okay. Pay no attention to that beautiful woman on your screen. She is my wife. Okay. So, coffee cupping. I'm going to start with the Guatamala El Volcan. First thing we do is a dry sniff. And if you want to follow along, we posted a couple of pictures in the Batdorf and Bronson VIP Coffee Club of the flavor wheel. It kind of breaks down the different elements, and also the coffee cupping attributes guide. And actually, let me pull that up while we're on here. So this is a good time, if you're not in it already, look for the Batdorf Boosters VIP Coffee Club. Oh, sure. The other one probably won't work for that. Huh. Hey, look at this. So these are the kind of resources we provide. I don't know if you can read this on screen, probably not. But this is cupping attributes. So when we're cupping coffee, these are the things we're looking for. We're looking at fragrance and aroma. We're looking at, and that comes in the dry coffee, right? That comes in the wet. And how does that change, right? How does it change in the cup? We're looking for flavor, the principal character, the mid-range notes, sort of the combined impression. What's the general takeaway from this coffee, right? Maybe it's not the first thing that hits you. Maybe it's not the trailing thing that hits you. But it's that thing in the middle that the coffee most reminds you of. So that's why we use fruit, and we use nuts, and we use other flavor terms that translate well to food that we eat, because it's a good way of describing what we're tasting in the coffee. I've heard some people put tasting notes like Christmas in downtown Chicago. That's not a tasting note, that's an experience. But I'm glad that it reminds you of that. So that's flavor. Aftertaste, kind of the length of flavor, the taste and the aroma. After the coffee is swallowed, what remains? So when I actually taste the coffee, I sit for a minute and just kind of let it linger on my tongue and try to pick up on any flavors, any aftertastes that are still there. Acidity is key. It's often described as brightness when favorable or sour when unfavorable. So acidity is the thing that makes the coffee lively. It makes it interesting. It makes it not flat. If you love the taste of the coffee, it's the acidity that's mostly contributing to that flavor. So some people kind of have a negative connotation of acidity, but in reality, if your coffee had no acidity, it would be very, very muted, very, very dull, and it certainly wouldn't be as tasty, okay? And acidity can present really differently. Like we said, it can be very bright, or it can be kind of a sour acidity. And we want to find that sweet spot where it's perfect. Body, the feeling of body is based upon the tactile feeling of the liquid in the mouth, especially as perceived between the tongue and the roof of the mouth. So we're talking about, I'll just read this a little bit here. Most samples with heavy body may also receive a high score in terms of quality due to the presence of brew colloids and sucrose. So there's sucrose in coffee, there are lipids in coffee. All of these things are contributing to the mouthfeel, they're contributing to the sweetness. So when we think about body, we're thinking about how does it land on the tongue? Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it sweet? Balance, we'll go quickly through the other ones. How balanced is the coffee? Sweetness, we're talking about a pleasing sweetness. Is it obvious? The opposite of sweetness, that's a good point, is green. So sometimes coffee that's under-roasted, like it's truly, truly under-roasted, has a vegetal quality that can be described as green, right? Before the coffee is roasted, it is not sweet. And so it's in the roasting process, just like when you cook and flavors intensify and they sweeten. In the roasting process, we're really pulling all of that goodness out of the coffee. So roasting makes coffee consumable, right? Green coffee is not good. You do not want to brew green coffee. So sometimes extremely lightly roasted coffee can have a green and vegetal quality that we don't generally prefer. I think once it moves just past that green, you start to get, you stay in that vegetal for a little bit. Coffees are very light, but they're not so green as to be undrinkable. They start to taste like sweet peas to me. And that's when I can tell it's very, very light. We generally like to move past that point and get into a place where the coffee really starts to sweeten. Because for a while, it's going to sweeten, and then it gets past that point of sweetness, and it starts to get into kind of a bitterness that we're not happy with, right? So we literally find the sweet spot. How clean is the cup? Talking about negative impressions, right? Transparency in the taste, in the aftertaste. If there's something in there where you kind of go, man, it's really good coffee, but it tastes like a brown paper bag at times. It's not a very clean cup, right? Some of that can be due to processing. Some of it can be due to roasting. Some of it can be due to other things. There's an effect called potatoing that pretty much exclusively happens with coffees from Rwanda and Burundi, and that effect makes the coffee taste like old potatoes. And it happens not because of roasting, not because of processing, but an insect that bites the coffee cherry. Very, very small insect. And it's completely imperceivable whether that happened or not. Doesn't leave anything that's obvious. You can't tell when you pick it. You can't tell in processing. You cannot tell in roasting. You can only tell when you drink it. But if that happens, you know that happened. So that's another interesting little tidbit for you. Uniformity, the consistency of flavor. Typically speaking, when we cup, and I should have mentioned this yesterday, we don't typically cup one of each coffee. I've got one of each one because they're on camera and I want it to be easy to show you. Normally I would line up 3 of each coffee, and the reason for that is because I want to make sure that I'm judging the coffee fairly for the whole batch. When we buy coffee, we buy giant lots of coffee. We don't buy a single bag of coffee typically, right? And so in the field, our green bean buyer is testing, honestly, probably more than 3, probably at least 5 or more of each coffee. And we do that because if there's one bean that's a little off, or if there's insect damage for the green bean buyer, but it doesn't affect the whole lot, it only affects like a tiny little amount, we don't want to judge the entire lot by that one off element. So in roasting, we're cupping our coffees in the roastery every day, and occasionally one bean might get burnt or something, or be just a little bit off, right? Heat control is very, very difficult, and our roasters are awesome at it. But if on a rare occasion something like that happened, we're cupping the coffee, we don't want to make changes to the roast profile based upon one stray bean. So we usually put several samples of each coffee on the table and then compare them. So that's where uniformity comes in. And then lastly is just our overall impression. And that's where we assign a score. Specialty grade coffee is coffees that score at least an 80 out of 100. They're scored by what's referred to as a Q grader. And the Q grader, if you like wine, you can think of a sommelier. That's kind of a parallel. Q grader would be someone that is trained and certified to score coffees for quality. Coffees that receive a grade of specialty are coffees that Batdorf and Bronson carries. We don't carry any coffees below specialty grade. If you look below specialty, the grade below that you'll see out and about is called premium. So if you ever see someone advertising that they serve premium grade coffee, you should know that that's not the highest grade of coffee. That's actually the tier below specialty grade coffee. And below that, we get into commodity coffees that are the kind that you would probably not want to be drinking in your home. They kind of go into instant coffee, and they go into other applications that really wouldn't work for the quality that we're looking for. So I'm going to move this out of the way. We have a question. Okay. From who?
Doug Walker.
Hey, Doug. What's your question?
Do the brew temperatures need to be altered per the roasting process? So I guess he means, do you have to use a different
I understand.
depending on how it's roasted?
Yep. So Doug asked if the roast level, how light or how dark the coffee is roasted to, impacts the water temperature when you're brewing. The answer is yes, but. Okay? So the range that you want to have your water in when you're brewing is 195 degrees Fahrenheit to 205. As long as you're in that range, you should be able to produce a good cup of coffee. With respect to roast level, it's typically understood that darker roasted coffees will extract well on the lower end of that range. closer to 195. Very light roasted coffees typically take a little more coaxing to pull all of that flavor out, and they tend to do better at the higher end of that range, closer to 205. That being said, I said yes, but for the most part, if you're sticking somewhere in there, I like to hang out close to 200, maybe a little above. I have not found a significantly appreciable difference. So it's not something I would say you need to fuss over too much. But if you do move, if you've got an electric kettle with where you can set the temperature, which you can get them for pretty inexpensive now, you can go ahead and mess with it, right? So maybe order some of our French roast or Italian roast, which are the darkest roasts that we do. And then maybe order, say, the Las Brisas, something on the lighter side, and kind of play with that, play with temperature, and tell me what you find out in your experimentation. Does it make a difference to you? Do you like one or the other? So great question. Thank you for asking. If you have any other questions, let me know. All right, so we're going to go into looking at these coffees again. So the first step in a coffee cupping is a dry sniff. So I'm going to take the El Volcan, shake it about. I'm going to cup my hand over my nose, leave my mouth open, hold it up and take a sniff. And I leave my mouth open to just allow more access for the aroma. I'm not ingesting the coffee, I'm just sniffing it. Okay. Thinking about milk chocolate, caramel, hazelnut. What am I getting from it? I definitely get the chocolatey. I see where the caramel comes from. Maybe a lighter caramel thing for me. And nuts are so hard. When Q graders go for their testing, they have quizzes where they're identifying different nuts blind. And it's so hard, from what I've heard. There's a nutty quality to it. A lot of coffees have that, especially Central and South American coffees. But for me, it's that milk chocolate kind of vibe with a little depth of carameliness. If you love our Dancing Goats blend, our most popular coffee, I like to think of El Volcan as a slightly less roasty version, meaning our Dancing Goats kind of our house coffee. We love to pull it as espresso. It's great brewed coffee. It's many of our wholesale partners carry it as their default drip coffee. They love Dancing Goats blend. It's definitely a favorite of many of our customers. I like to think of El Volcan as being like if you like Dancing Goats, but you just want it like a hair less roasty, which for me means that it presents even better as a cup of black coffee. Whereas I think Dancing Goats maybe holds up slightly better with cream and sugar, right? Both could go either way though. We're like in that range where both works, but if I had both of them in front of me, I would pick the Dancing Goats if I was going to add a little cream to it or a little sugar, and I would pick El Volcan if I wasn't. Okay? All right. But your mileage may vary. You may like it one way or the other, and that's okay. Be sure to share the stream to win. And how are we looking? We getting some shares in there? Yeah. All right. Keep sharing, guys. If we get a bunch of shares, I will give away some coffee. Excuse me. All right. Thank you all for being with us. We really appreciate it. Let me see here. Okay. All right. So, moving on. So that's El Volcan. Las Brisas. Tasting notes are citrus, cocoa, and honey. So I'm going to do a dry sniff. Go back to me. It's very light. There's a little bit of that roastiness that just tells me it's coffee. I can smell kind of a sweetness. That's that citrus and honey. That roastiness is kind of that cocoa note. Yeah, I'm getting that cocoa in the dry sniff. I think in the wet, I'm anticipating I'll get a little bit more of that citrus. But in the dry, I get the cocoa. I like the way Josh likes to talk about it. Josh is my counterpart in Olympia. Hey, Josh. And I've heard him say about this coffee that the cocoa is kind of that bittersweet chocolate, that darker chocolate vibe, right? As opposed to kind of that milk chocolatey, very, very sweet, kind of a saccharine sweet kind of thing. So I'm getting some of those baker's chocolate notes in there. When we talk about bitterness in coffee, one thing that you got to realize is that bitter is not bad. Coffee's a bitter drink, right? But it's got to be balanced. We went over that all those elements on our chart, right? We talked about how are they balanced so that it's pleasant on the tongue. I made my wife a breakfast hash yesterday, and it came out really good. I told her that the next time I do it, I'm going to leave it on the pan a little longer to really brown and crisp up more of the hash. And if she were honest, and she's sitting next to me, so, I can confirm. At first, if I told her I was going to make something dark brown or crispy, she might be a little timid, like afraid that it'll be burnt and unpleasant. But in reality, she took a bite of that little crispy bit, and it was the tastiest part of the whole dish, right? Yep. Yeah, she says yes. And that's because that crispiness presents a balanced sweetness and a little bit of a bitterness that gives kind of a pleasant flavor in the mouth. So a little bit of that is really good. Okay, enough of that diversion. So next up, we're going to go to Costa Rica Cerro del Fuego. Melon, peach, and macadamia nut are our tasting notes. I like to knock it around a little. Oh, yeah. So the melon is really present for me. It'd be so hard for me to describe melon, but I taste this. To me, this is almost like a honeydew. A very light sweetness, but really, really pleasant. I'm not getting the peach in the dry sniff, but I might get it when it's wet. And maybe a general nuttiness. I'm not quite at macadamia nut. No, I can get it. It's got that fatty kind of quality, right? You know how nuts have that fatty quality that's really smooth in certain nuts? Think of a white chocolate macadamia nut cookie. The macadamia nut, the way it presents in that is really, really different from a real roasty, toasty other kind of nut. Like, really different from a pecan, really different from, or pecan, really different from an almond. It's just got that buttery quality. So I'm getting that here. Okay. And then last is our Guatamala La Esperanza from Octavio Herrera. Brown sugar, apple, and raisin. Woo! This is super distinct. They're not all, some of them present more in the dry, more in the wet. This one presents a lot when it's dry. Definitely that raisiny kind of quality I'm getting. And that brown sugar, it smells very sweet, which I really like. It means I'm probably going to taste that in the coffee. Any questions or anything? All right. And all right, so let's move on to the next step. The next thing we're going to do is pour a little water on here. Okay. Just take a look here. Cool. Thank you guys for sharing and watching. Hey, Ren. I'm just looking at some of the comments here from you guys. Hey, Ren, how you doing? Scott in Scottsdale. Awesome. Loves the guat. Did I just say cream and sugar? I did say cream and sugar. There's nothing wrong with cream and sugar. If you like cream and sugar, you go, girl or guy. Enjoy your cream and sugar. I do drink my coffee black most of the time, and what I will say is just start with good coffee, right? I don't care what your drink is. Honestly, there's one of my favorite drinks to get when I'm out west is this drink that's made with half and half. And it's super luxurious, and it's got orange, and it's got cinnamon, and it's got all these things, but it's lovely. I would not drink that every day. Because I want to live. But it's delicious. So enjoy what you like. Cream and sugar are fine. I will say that if you're using cream and sugar to hide the taste of bad coffee, then once you switch to really good coffee, you're going to find that you're going to need a lot less of that to get the coffee to that requisite level of sweetness. In fact, some people can kick the habit altogether just by upgrading the quality of your coffee. Don't believe me? Go to our website now. The link is in the comments. Order some coffee. You can save 10% with Watch and Learn 10. This is an exclusive coupon. We are not advertising this coupon outside of to our fans who are watching the program. So if you use the coupon, you have to promise to watch, but I promise you'll learn something in the process. We're also running an unadvertised special. If you purchase a brewer, like a Chemex, AeroPress, French Press, any of the brewers on our website, it can be an electric coffee brewer, and you buy a bag of our Dancing Goats blend, which is our signature blend, at the same time, you'll get 25% off the coffee. So that's a special. If you're watching right now, I'm not going to say it again, unless you ask me to, because I'm a nice guy, I'll say it again for them. All right, so I'm drinking the Kenya that we opened yesterday. Man, that's good. If you didn't check that out, we've got some amazing African, Indonesian coffees. Kenya, Ethiopia Harar, our Burundi, our Papua New Guinea Norikori, and our Sumatra, all awesome coffees. You can find those at batdorfcoffee.com. So next up in the cupping process is we're going to brew. So I'm just going to pour hot water. This water, for those of you who are playing along, is 200 degrees. You'll notice that we get a lot of bubbling. The bubbling is from the freshness of the coffee. Really fresh coffee has CO2 trapped in the coffee. And that's a natural byproduct of the roasting process. That's why you don't want to drink coffee the same day it's roasted. There's too much CO2, and it's not a pleasant experience right the same day it's roasted. It needs to rest for a little bit. I find that somewhere around the third day tends to be good for me. Some people are okay with it depending on the coffee. The second day after roast can be fine, but definitely not the day it's roasted. I think the coffee actually improves for several days, maybe up to about the fifth day. it hits that ideal spot, and it'll hold that for maybe a week after. That's like the sweet spot for me, right? From 5 to 14 days, somewhere in there. Lovely. Perfect time to drink your coffee. But definitely, you want to keep your coffee as freshly roasted as possible. All of our coffee is roasted to order, meaning if you order your coffee today, we will roast it the next day we roast. We roast Monday through Thursday. We do that so that coffee doesn't have to sit on a truck over the long weekend. That's why we don't roast on Fridays. We want to get it to you as fresh as humanly possible. That makes a big difference, guys. Coffee's a fresh product. Enjoy it while it's fresh. If somebody got you a really nice bag of coffee for your wedding, do not save it and have a cup every year on your anniversary. You're doing no one any favors. Enjoy the coffee while it's fresh. Okay, speech over. So now we're brewing. We're going to set a timer for 4 minutes, and in 4 minutes, this coffee will be brewed. So we're just going to let it go. So any questions? Let's give away some coffee, shall we? Let's see who has been sharing the stream. Let me see if I can see it here too. If you've got questions, if you haven't shared, go ahead and share, because we're going to be doing a giveaway. I'm going to see if I can pull up that little chat. Cool. All right, I see we've got some people watching. See, we got some shares. Hey to everybody watching on Dancing Goats Coffee Bars. Also Batdorf and Bronson, Florida. We're also live on our YouTube. Cool. Awesome. We got a bunch of eyes on us, so thank you for that. Please continue to share. Let me see if I can see. So right now we're just waiting for the coffee to brew. There we go. All right. Yes, thank you guys so much. All right, don't forget the coupon. I'm gonna put this on the coffee for a second and see if we can grab a winner. All right. Looks like today's winner Today's winner is Noah Murray. Noah, if you're watching, shoot me a message with your address. We're going to send you whichever coffee you want. So you pick it, and we will roast it for you and ship it out to you ASAP. Congratulations, Noah. Guys, keep sharing. If we get enough shares, maybe we'll do another giveaway. So keep sharing. We appreciate that. All right, so we've given it almost enough time to brew. So now what we're going to do is we're going to break the coffee. Got just a few seconds more. We want to go about 4 minutes here. And breaking the coffee, what's happened is there's a crust that forms on top. And that crust is grounds. We want to sink those grounds so that we can taste the coffee without tasting a mouthful of grounds. It's simple as that. It's called breaking the coffee because it also represents a great chance to smell the wet coffee. And we want to see how does the wet coffee impact the flavor. Okay, so we're at 4 minutes now. So, yeah, there's a question. Depends on the context. Would I recommend a percolator? A percolator has some pluses and it has some minuses. It's a fine brewing style. It just takes some care to get the grind just right. It also takes a while to brew. but it's a good way to make coffee for a lot of people. I would say it's not my favorite in terms of the quality of the coffee that I tend to get out of it, but if you take some care and you put a little love into it, you can make a decent percolator. So if you'd like to see me use a percolator, drop that in the comments. Maybe we'll go over that. We've done some other brewing demos, and we'll continue to do more. If you want to see brewing demos, let me know what you'd like to see me demonstrate, and we'll do that. We're going to keep doing some shows as long as you keep tuning in. All right, so we're going to break the coffee now. So that's going to look like taking our spoon. We're going to push the grounds back, towards us, back, and then sink them. And in that process, I'm going to get my nose right up to it to see if I can get a good little sniff. So here we go. Okay. And then in between, I need my rinse water. So in between, I'm going to rinse my spoon in very, very hot water. This is 200-degree water. And I'm rinsing so that I don't cross-contaminate. I don't want to go from one coffee to the next and put that coffee in that one. So the spoon is clean. So we'll do it again. It's a little hard to get my nose right up on there because of this setup, but you get the idea. Move this. Okay. We're just kind of sinking. The grounds form a crust on top. So more or less what we're doing is we're breaking that crust up. So that we can get to the coffee underneath. Okay? All right, so now we've broken the coffees. Now, I'm going to take 2 spoons and I'm going to clean them up. And so we like to affectionately call this skimming the scum. I'm going to just take all these oils and any grounds that are still on the surface, scoop them out, rinse my spoon. And that should leave a clean head of coffee on top. Any floating oil you want to skim doesn't have to be perfect, but the oil is can be bitter as compared to the rest of the coffee. Those oils are fats, lipids that the roasting process brings out that are natural to the coffee. Coffee is a very complex beverage. There's sugar in there, there are fats in there. But lucky for us, black coffee only has 5 calories. So drink good coffee, and you'll never have to quit. Even if you can't do caffeine, because we have some of the best decafs in the world. Swiss water processed, without harsh chemicals, delivering delicious coffee flavor. That's hard to do. You want to judge a roaster, judge them by their decaf. Decaf is hard to get right. Our decaf is exceptional. I recommend our decaf Peru on the lighter side, or our organic whirling dervish decaf on the darker side. Both are amazing. So definitely, if you want a little nighttime coffee. Also our steeped, our single serves. We've worked really hard to come up with a single serve that we can be proud of, that is environmentally responsible and tastes delicious. And we found it in steeped dancing goats. Let me see. 1 second. I'm going to walk over here. I know you can still hear me, but you can't see me. I'm just grabbing a little boxy box. So if you are interested in having some decaf in your house, but maybe you don't drink decaf every day, you have your regular coffee, but hey, who doesn't like a cup of coffee with their chocolate cake? Sometimes dessert happens at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and you want to go to bed. So you need a little decaf. Or you have a guest, a friend, a family member who doesn't consume caffeine, they want something decaffeinated. Our steeped coffee satchels, this is our 10-pack. They come just like this, and inside, it's got a little pop that seam. Inside you'll find 10 packets of steeped Dancing Goats blend. Each are individually sealed. You just submerge it in water, allow it to steep for 5 minutes. It's as easy as brewing tea. And then enjoy. It's delicious. Really, really, it's the best single-serve option we've ever tried. We love it for camping. We love it for hotels. We love it for travel. We love it for keeping it in your office desk drawer, because office coffee can be bad. So it's a great solution. I keep some in my kitchen. I don't do a lot of decaf, but I like to be hospitable. So if somebody comes over and they'd like some coffee and they can't have caffeinated coffee, I like to have something. Nice thing is, because these are individually sealed, they're good for 4 months. So you can order them, throw them in your cabinet, use them as you need them. You can get those on batdorfcoffee.com. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're allowing the coffee to cool. We want this to cool to room temperature because heat has a way of inhibiting our ability to taste everything that's in the coffee, right? Heat doesn't change the flavor, but we don't taste everything that's there. And we want to be completely honest. No camera tricks, no Instagram filters. We want to know what this coffee tastes like. So we let it cool off so that we can taste everything that's in there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. In this case, this is all coffee that's been quality tested, so we know it's all going to be very, very good. But our roasters are cupping every single day to make sure that we maintain that quality. So if you order a bag of our coffee today, and you order a bag of our coffee a year from now, it's going to be consistently good. And, if it's ever not, let us know. We love our customers, and we'll take care of you. So we're going to let the coffee cool off just a little bit before we taste it. You guys want to try this at home? You can do it. All you need is a cup. You don't even have to have a special cupping bowl like these. You can cup in a mug like that. Excuse me, just a moment. Okay. Sorry, I had to sneeze. You can have it in, just use your favorite diner mug. By the way, if you want to get this diner mug, I drink out of this almost every day. They're delicious. Well, they're not delicious. Don't eat the diner mug. They hold delicious coffee well. I like the nice diner mug style. I like the heavy feel in the hand. It just feels substantial in a good way. You can get this at batdorfcoffee.com. All right. It's under gifts and apparel. You got lots of fun stuff. Check that section out, by the way. We've got hoodies and hats and all kinds of cups, tumblers, some really fancy ones that do cool tricks. We've also got our Airscape containers, which keep your coffee fresh. We love the Airscape containers. So check that out. Okay, so we're letting the coffee cool off. Any questions? And please share the stream. We're going to taste in just a minute. Let me know which one you're most interested in trying. Which one appeals to you the most? When you look at the tasting notes, so we've got Guatamala El Volcan, 100% certified organic. Varieties are Caturra and Catuí. Tasting notes, milk chocolate, caramel, and hazelnut, and this is fair trade certified. Then we've got our single origin, Colombia Las Brisas, varieties Caturra, region is Tolima. From the farmer is Edward Giraldo. We actually know our farmers, guys. This is not a joke. This is what you get from the highest quality coffee. Tasting notes are citrus, cocoa, and honey. And we've got Costa Rica, Cerro del Fuego, 100% certified organic, honey processed, single origin. Fair trade certified. Tasting notes are melon, peach, and macadamia nut. That's a fun one. If you haven't tried that one, give it a try. And then lastly, our single origin Guatamala La Esperanza from Octavio Herrera, or Herrera. Varieties Catura. Tasting notes are brown, sugar, apple, and raisin. Another great coffee. So, yeah, let me know in the comments. Is there one that you are interested in trying? What would you like to try at home if you could try any of them? And if more people share the stream, I will give more coffee away. So, John Boy Ellis, hey John, asks, has anyone heard of or tried white coffee? Coffee's roasted around 325, still very green. Apparently it's a thing on the West Coast. Yeah, so my opinion of white coffee is that it tastes like peanuts in the worst way possible. I don't love it. So that's what I'm going to say. It is, yeah, to each their own. But I think it's a weird trend, and I hope it goes away. Basically, it's super, super unroasted coffee. We roast because it improves the flavor. So, coffee's not a great raw beverage. Cool. Guys, I love these comments. I love that you're all hanging out with me. If you have questions, let me know. Anything. Happy to answer. You want to know how to French press or Chemex or what to buy, we can help you out. Cool. Let me see. Let me check the other pages. See who else is watching us. So we're letting the coffee cool off now. And again, we're going to be giving away some coffee here. So please join us. Let's see. All right. Hey to Andrea, to Jody, to Carol. Carol, you love the Whirling Dervish, regular and decaf. Thank you so much. Thank you, Carol. Whirling Dervish, for me, Whirling Dervish is this amazing coffee that hits this like darker roasted vibe with just no bitterness. Like no unpleasant, sometimes I use that term, no unpleasant bitterness, right? It's good with like Sunday brunch. Whirling Dervish is just a great coffee, and it's quickly become my favorite decaf. So I agree, Carol. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. Thank you guys for all the love, all the likes, all the shares. Let's do a little. So we're still a hair on the warm side. Remember, you can save 10%, watch and learn 10. And again, let me know if there's something you want to see from us. I'm going to take a moment while the coffee cools off to talk about every day, Monday through Friday, we have a weekday program. Josh and Ben out in Olympia are doing trading off shows. They're a little shorter, and they do some cool brewing things. Ben did a cool thing with a filter that he floated in the air by hanging it with fishing line and binder clips, and then he just floated it over the vessel. This is not a recommended brewing method. It's more experimenting for fun. But it was so much fun to watch. But they've got some great tips and tricks there, so we're streaming every day. That is 9 a.m. if you're on the West Coast, 12 p.m. if you're on the East Coast, and if you're in between, it's somewhere in between. But you can see it on any of our channels. Please tune in and watch. We would love to have you join us. Thank you guys also for all the coffee you've been buying, loving and sharing. Share pictures of your coffee. purchases in the VIP club, the Batdorf Boosters VIP coffee club. You can also share a picture of your morning coffee, ask questions. We're going to do some giveaways in there, so please join. All right, I think I've let it cool off enough. Yeah, it's about good. So now we're going to taste. And when we taste, we want to take a good spoonful, and then we want to slurp the coffee. We want to slurp because we really want to get that coffee spread across our entire tongue, and then give it a moment to see what we taste. Remember, we're looking for all those cupping elements. All right? Definitely getting the milk chocolate out of the Guatemala. Las Brisas. I got the cocoa when it was dry. Now it's still there, but I really pick up that citrus too. So it's this super balanced thing where you get that little bit of cocoa-iness and you get that little bit of citrus, almost like is it pretentious if I say it's pomelo? That sounds pretentious, doesn't it? It's a citrusy taste that's maybe on the orangey side, but it's not overwhelming. It's just really, really pleasant. So remember, I'm going to rinse in between. Okay, let's go back to the Costa Rica, Cerro del Fuego. So I smelled the melon when it was dry, and I think when it was wet too. Now that I'm tasting it, I'm getting more of that macadamia nut. It's buttery. Oh man, it's so good. It's buttery in the best way. This is a nice cup of coffee. Okay. And now the Guatemala La Esperanza. So we got 2 guats on the table. This is our second one. Oh, I gotta drink more of this. The raisin note is there for me. And then it's sweet. I feel like the brown sugar note is just a little bit more of a rich sweetness. A sweetness that has a little body to it. And then I think the apple just describes the clarity of the cup. It's a clear cup. It's super balanced. It's kind of consistent. Sometimes I drink a coffee and a certain flavor hits me, and then I go on this roller coaster where like something else, it changes in my mouth if I give it a second. And then as I finish, it changes. And that could be a good thing. There's coffees that when I first take a sip, I'm not loving it as much, but if I let it linger, it sweetens in my mouth, right? You get those first notes, you get those secondary notes, and you kind of get that finish, right? Some of them finish so nice that it just makes me want to go back for more. But then other coffees are a little bit more consistent start to finish, and I think for me, the La Esperanza has a nice consistency to it, which would make it a really good, like, everyday drinker for me. All great coffees. These are just some of what we carry. We also have a whole assortment of blends, which are amazing. If you weren't with us yesterday, we went through our African coffees. Could you grab the airscapes for me? So I've got my airscape containers that have a couple of our coffees that we did yesterday in them. I'm doing the Kenya. You can hear. Nice and tight. Completely vacuum sealed. And then I'm also doing Ethiopia Harar. which I gotta smell it. It's so amazing. You gotta pull the thing out to smell it, really. Oh. Guys, it's like a blueberry muffin. It's crazy. If you haven't had the Ethiopia Harar, give it a try. So keeping these in my little Airscape containers keeps them fresh. Give you a nice view. They come in black and in white. You can put your dark roast in one and your light roast in the other if you want. And they're available under the gifts and apparel section on our website. Any other questions? Anything that's come through? Cool. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Thanks for hanging out with us. Just looking to see if we got any more questions. Hey, Erica. Thanks for hanging out. Hey, Joe. Awesome. Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, what's the question?
What is your favorite style to brew?
What's my favorite style to brew? Oh, it's so hard. So at home, why don't you grab the thing that you think I brew with the most at home? I'm letting my wife decide. What is the thing I brew with the most at home? Step on so they can see you. This is my wife, Pamela. This is a Chemex. This is probably the thing I brew with most mornings, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like the Chemex because it's simple, it's easy, it's pretty forgiving. It's also the brewer and the server in one. So you can brew right into it, give it a swirl, discard your filter, and pour the coffee out. And it's just gorgeous. They've got this in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. It's in their permanent kitchen and housewares collection, I believe it's called. And it's actually an American invention from the early 40s. It was invented by a German-born American chemist in New York City. So it's called a Chemex. Great device. You can buy them on batdorfcoffee.com. So if you don't have one, you can pick it up there. Also, the Hario V60 is on our website. That, to me, makes one of the best cups of coffee. I think the Chemex is maybe a hair more forgiving. Like you gotta tweak your V60 a little, but once you get your V60 technique down, it's not too hard. You can get an amazing cup of coffee out of that. I also love the AeroPress, completely made of plastic, so nothing to break. You can make everything from kind of a faux espresso, because it's a pressurized chamber, all the way up to brewed coffee. It's also a great way to make lattes at home. So if you don't have an espresso machine and all your favorite coffee shops are closed, grab an AeroPress. You can make a really strong cup of coffee that's very reminiscent of espresso, because espresso is just coffee that's produced under pressure in a short period of time. So we grind coffee fine, we put it under pressure, and we extract a lot out of that coffee in a short period of time. If we went too long with espresso, we would over-extract that coffee and it would become very, very bitter. So by doing a short extraction on finely ground coffee, we have a lot of surface area because it's fine, a lot we can pull from it, but it takes the pressure. It's like a pressure cooker. Anybody got their Instant Pot at home? I do. So that pressure speeds up the extraction process, just like your pressure cooker would. And the AeroPress mimics that by putting the coffee in a small chamber and then a plunger that creates a perfect seal, pushes the coffee with a chamber of air through a filter and then out into your cup. Now, it does not produce the same kind of pressurized coffee that like our commercial espresso machine would. But for the price, it's incredible what you can get out of it. And so if you want that strong cup that you can then pour milk on, right? Get your frothy milk going at home, whisk it up, warm it up, pour it over, and you got your faux latte at home. And I've seen people make really incredible homemade lattes that way. You can pour latte art and everything. So you can check out AeroPress. We did an AeroPress video. I did one that you can see on our page. Ben, who is our trainer out in Olympia, is the 2016 U.S. AeroPress champion. He's got some great AeroPress content that he's done. So check that out. If you want to buy an AeroPress, you can grab one, batdorfcoffee.com, and save 10%. Watch and learn 10. So that's another good one. Lots of good ways to do it. All right. Cool. I'm going to take one more taste before we go because I'm enjoying hanging out with you guys. And I appreciate you guys hanging with me. So one more taste. I find that going through the coffee again, don't forget about your airscape. Going through it again, I really get to know the coffee. The first time through is just setting my palate's expectations. Now I'm going to my brain knows what to look for. More nuttiness this time from the Guatamala El Volcan. As it cools, the flavors, again, they don't really change, but you taste more. It's more honest. Las Brisas. Oh my gosh, there's a reason Las Brisas is our staff favorite right now. That was awesome. Orangey, tangerine-y, sweet. I'm getting less of that cocoa as it cools off. And that's good. It's like the cocoa provides this little structure, this body, but that sweetness is what's first on my tongue right now. As it cools off, it gets sweeter. Costa Rica, Cerro del Fuego. This is that honey process. Remember we talked about that? Let's try that again. More of the melon. As it cools off, it gets sweeter. It's a common refrain with good coffee. As it cools, it gets sweeter. And lastly, Guatemala La Esperanza. Let me know which coffee you're going to try. If you're planning on buying one of these, throw it out into the group. Let us know. Oh my gosh, that's so good. It's like, sometimes I get this pleasant, tang on the sides of my tongue. And I'm getting that here in a unique and unexpected way. I think that's the raisin note. That's such a good coffee. I might be drinking this one a lot more. Guys, I've had all of these coffees, but sometimes just going through and cupping them again, going through a couple of times, it helps us to really get a sense of what's there and what's not there. And it can help you pick some favorites. So I hope that this has been helpful and illustrative for you. Give you one more shot of all the coffees. Don't forget you can save 10%. Watch and learn 10. We're just doing that for you guys because we love you. So check out all those coffees. And yeah, let me know in the comments which one you're most interested in trying. And after the broadcast, we'll check the shares, and if we've got some more shares, we'll give away some more coffee. We're going to be doing giveaways with every program. So tune in tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific or 12 noon. Take your lunch break if you're on the East Coast. And we're going to do some more coffee programming. So thank you for joining us today. I sincerely appreciate it. And I will be back with you soon. Let me know what you'd like to see for our next broadcast. So we're going to be broadcasting. We did a little double take for the weekend here, but we're going to broadcast again on Wednesday, and then after that on Saturday. So let us know what you'd like to see. It'll be at 4 o'clock Eastern, Wednesday and Saturday, 1 o'clock Pacific time. And we'll be broadcasting right here from the training lab until we can have you in-house. We love you and we appreciate you. Please enjoy your coffee in your homes. Aren't you glad you can have good coffee at home? I am. And we'd love to see you in the cafes or in our lab soon. But until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.